That was a lot of reading. Okay, on to Ikki story. Some breathing first. Let me breathe. To others and myself, it was a scene reminiscent of a romantic film. Faded in color, the afternoon felt nostalgically sentimental. In the seat across from me, a girl with long hair tied up in complicated knots was, oh wow, how did she get, okay, was sipping coffee through a straw. I was accustomed to partying with girls at this point, and this situation was no different. The coffee here is delicious, isn't it? Casually, oh wait, fuck, that was him saying it, whatever. Casually prompting her to drink, I looked softly at her face. You're welcome here anytime. Yes. She gave me a watery smile and looked down at her coffee, giving it all of her attention as if to hold back tears. As she sipped, the nearly empty glass made a clinking noise from the settling ice. Oh my god, I can't read. Embarrassed by the sound, her cheeks turned red, and I found it truly adorable. Despite that, there was no question in my mind that we would part. I did not have romantic feelings for her, though there was no question of her infatuation with me. Until today, we had experienced no problems in our relationship. From a bystander's point of view, it was surely a strange story. Furthermore, there are many others who wish to have a relationship with me, so to be bound to one person would be unfair. That was the reason I gave her. Even I think it's a selfish idea. But there has never been a girl who has objected to my selfish reasoning. And so the cycle has continued, starting again every 3 months. The confession, the companionship, and the breakup. There was no room for any change of feelings on my part. There were times when they would leave with a smile and times when they would cry. However, everything on my end was exactly the same each time. I spoke to her sympathetically. I suppose we should leave soon. Gently, I pulled the reluctant girl up to her feet. I'll wait for you. She pulled out her purse, but I refused. Moments later, we stepped outside into the busy street. Amidst the sound of vehicles passing by outside the cafe, I smiled at her. I'll see you again. Take care. I was kind but definitive in saying these words, meaning we would no longer be in a special relationship the next time we meet. She managed to force her trembling lips into a semblance of a smile. Yes, goodbye. Take care. I pushed back the dull pain I felt in my heart into the depths of my stomach. I couldn't say that I was lonely. It wasn't a word I was allowed. I was the one ending the relationship for my own convenience. A thought in my head resonated faintly that I wasn't doing this because I wanted to. What an excuse. No matter my circumstances, I was the one who decided to take this path, and I was the one hurting her now. So the details of my circumstances were nothing but excuses. What more, somewhere within my true feelings, I was even blaming her. You say that you like me, but you have nothing to say about us separating? You have no objections at all? I admonished her with unreasonable criticism in my mind, even though I was the one breaking up with her for my own benefit. It was impossible for me to utter such things. Why is there so much text? Thank you very much. It was... Oh my god, so much text! I don't want to read it. Thank you very much. It was fun. Going out with a girl was, for the most part, genuinely fun. It became my preferred pastime. Man, my throat hurts from complaining. To flirt, and I found all the sweet girls I could ensnare to be perfectly lovable. With this many variations of girls that existed in all the world, I was fortunate to be able to try them all. Wow. I feel like a jerk just reading your lines. However, for one moment, every 3 months, everything had to become difficult. I had fun as well. Goodbye. Having delivered the words, by force of habit, I left the scene without another glance at her teary, crumbling expression. I gave her even less sympathy than I should have. I had done more than necessary during our time together to make sure I left no regrets. As it ended, I let her go as swiftly and as calmly as possible. And thus it was over. After this, and another beginning would come. It seemed that one day of this out of a happy 3 months was unavoidable. Moreover, the reoccurring situation I found myself in was very common knowledge now. There was always another girl who came to confess to me a day or two after a breakup. It wasn't as if I didn't care who approached me, but I am able to find most girls cute in their own way. To be honest, I consider it one of my greater strengths. I really like you, Ikki. The girl in front of me looked up with a face full of nervousness. As expected, I found her terribly charming. Her face was as normal as any young lady's, but it was the way she gripped her skirt that I loved. Her name was Taeko, if I recalled correctly. I saw no problem in dating her. I could have a lot of fun teasing her, flirting with her, and so much more, just like with so many other girls. Until the last day of those 3 months. I heard a voice from somewhere just as I was about to reply. Taeko turned to look startled. The person who stood at the other end of that gaze was a junior of mine from a place where I worked part-time. I'm sorry. Edging backward, she looked distressed as she tried to leave the scene. I'm interrupting something, aren't I? I'll leave. I remembered vaguely that this was the path that she used to walk back home after work. She was a rare girl, one on whom my eyes had no effect. I found it refreshing and interesting to talk with her. If she had asked me on a date, I would have kicked all the others to the curb just to comply. Wow. That was how fond I was of her, but far from confessing any feelings, I was clearly aware she didn't like me, a fact which I found ironic. I was sure, after witnessing such a scene, her impression of me being a playboy had grown even stronger. When I thought of this, suddenly everything else became so bothersome. We're in the middle of something, but don't worry, you needn't mind us. We'll be finished soon. Thinking I might be rejecting her, Taeko's shoulders started to tremble. Let's see, Taeko, was it? If I may be frank, you mean that you would like to date me, right? Taeko hurriedly nodded. Yes. When I date someone, I try to go as far as I possibly can with that girl. That is what I will think of our relationship. Knowing this, is it all right with you? I always make it clear from the start, there's no possibility that I could develop stronger feelings for you. I will even... Are there quotations marked on this? She's saying this. I will not even put in the slightest effort to try. Even then, I ask, will they be fine with this? I am currently single, so if you can truly accept these conditions, I wouldn't mind dating you at all. It was only for a brief moment that Taeko showed any hesitation. Of course that's alright. That's more than enough. It'll be like a dream. Is that so? This was usually how the conversation went. Afterwards, I would discuss with her the specifics. It's like they're hiring him to be their boyfriend. In detail, we would exchange contact information and it would be decided. A new 3 months would begin. It was a beginning with a predetermined end. Even though I knew I was beyond feeling any misery at this point, I couldn't help but wonder if the reason I felt so wistful was because Taeko was a bit my type. You have a type? I did rather like the girl I had just parted with, though. Perhaps they both were. After I settled the routine details with Taeko with a clouded mind. Ow, my bracelet. I bid her a farewell. Itchy. My junior, who had been quietly observing the conversation, finally spoke to me in a trembling voice. You're the worst. I blinked, somewhat caught off guard. I think that's the first time someone has said that to me. No one has ever said it to you? She glared at me, her previously dazed expression suddenly turning into one of full anger. If no one's ever told you, then I will. What you're doing is simply awful. You should be more aware of what... I can't be mad when I'm stumbling words. You should be more aware of other people's feelings. Maybe you've never actually fallen in love with someone, but can't you imagine for a second what that's like? If you fell in love with someone and gathered enough courage to confess, and you were then given the response that you just gave now, can't you see? Oh, well, timer's done. Well, I'll just finish Ikki's story though. Can't you tell how horrible that is? Her voice disappeared into the air. If I fell in love with someone, if I was given the response I gave a moment ago, I had never given thought of such an idea. Having been confronted so suddenly, I allowed myself to imagine it. To imagine myself falling in love with someone was quite difficult, so instead I thought of it from outside, observing my furious junior. The vision of her loving someone, gripping the fabric of her skirt and confessing, "I love you," then the vision of her being responded with, "I will go as far as I can with you." How would she react? Would she love that man enough to think that was alright? Would that man really take advantage of her innocence, of her pure feelings? God, I want to punch that man. As that thought faded away from my mind, I exhaled. You're right, that really is the worst. Right? It's so terrible, I wonder why no one said this to me before. There really is no excuse. Right? The reason no one had said this to me before, I knew fully well. It was because anyone who looked into my eyes lost all motivation to condemn me. This was the world that I lived in, a world where everyone supported me, a world where even when I've done nothing, I'm praised. I'm given respect and I don't receive the reproach and discussion that should be owed to me. A world where the only one who could control me was myself. No matter how hard I worked, it went unacknowledged. Because the flow of adoration was constant, there was no way of knowing whether a person truly recognized me. There was no opportunity for anyone to reproach me for a lack of effort. Those who did hate me and kept their distance would never go out of their way to denounce me. There was only a handful of people who would point out my flaws. She was one of these people. I really am the worst. You're right. It's exactly as you say. After laughing it off and readjusting, oh my god, I can't read anymore, the view of my own actions, I felt more and more deplorable. Even then I thought I had been trying to show that I cared about my partners through my actions. But such an excuse was weak when on the heels of the abuse I had directed at Taeko Such an excuse was weak when on the heels of the abuse I had directed at Taeko and my frustration. I hope that you understand now. Why wasn't it she that confessed to me? It was a foolish thought to have after having just accepted another girl's confession. If this girl were to confess to me, I would treasure her with all I had. I'd fix all the flaws she brought up to me. I would die rather than do something she didn't like. I would probably become the ideal partner. But such a thing was impossible. She would never fall in love with a man who would handle a girl's heart in such a harsh manner. I'm sorry for being so rude just now. Not at all. I was truly the one at fault. I apologize for this unpleasant experience. It's okay. Well, I'll be leaving. Of course, goodbye. As I bid her farewell, I felt the same painful reluctance that I usually felt when breaking up with a girl after 3 months. I pushed down the urge to run after her and ask if she would be my girlfriend. The urge only subsided after I could no longer see her retreating figure. That's right, I'm Taeko's boyfriend now. Remembering the person that had just now become my girlfriend, I took my cell phone out of my pocket. Once I learned that I was in the wrong, all I could do was appreciate what I had at the moment. To ignore the confession I had just accepted and pine after another girl would make it difficult for her to ever like me. After 3 rings, I heard Taeko's voice, which already sounded nostalgic to me. I want to apologize about just now. You see, I want to take back that response I just gave. Why? Did I do something wrong? At Taeko's panicked words, I couldn't help but smile. It's alright. I found her cute. I can care for her. No, that's not what I meant. I don't want to take back the idea of us dating. I want to take back what I said about trying to go as far as I can with you. I won't let myself think that way anymore. I'm not sure how much I can do exactly, but from this point forward, I do want to treat you properly. What? Taeko fell silent from the other end of the phone. Was this my imagination that she was even more surprised now than when I said such selfish things to her earlier? Well, for reasons of my own, I cannot take back the 3-month limit. The reason? Right, I should explain that as well. When are you free? Let's have a long talk. I want to learn more about you too. This was the beginning of the end. I don't know where the road will lead from here. My heart might wear down from the 3-month cycle, and I may have become too familiar with selfish relationships to the point that perhaps I wouldn't be able to care for her properly. Yet I wanted to become someone whom that girl would not despise. I would begin here first. Wow, you really did love her. I ended the call and returned my cell phone to my pocket, gazing regretfully in the direction she had left and looking up at the sky. The spring sky was tinged a sweet violet blue, a sky I had seen time and time again, yet today I cherished it. I felt that this faded world was suddenly becoming more colorful.